Hello, hello, everyone. I am Ben Pick. Thank you for joining me in Running to Write. We are here for my book launch. Normally, I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors, but this is all about today. Well, today is all about the book which I wrote. I did one of those things again. We're back here. It's been a year and about 3 months since the last time we were here, but Saving the Lost is my newest book. Whew. And it is out today. That is a lot to take in on a Saturday morning. So, thank you for joining me. Richard, as always, thank you for being first. Morgan, thank you for being here too. This is awesome. It is a self-publishing tips and tricks reunion, which is always a fun time. And spoiler alert, Morgan was one of the professional editors who worked on my book, and she did a fantastic job. I am ever grateful that you helped me out with improving my book and making my characters feel real. And a lot of the specific dialogue pieces you helped touch up. So I am really appreciative of your help with that and in making my book as good as it possibly can be. So I have multiple screens going all at the same time to try and get as much information out there and to try and track everything. So I have a couple of books here behind me. And let's get this whole thing underway. I have a wonderful little slideshow thing to go on. Ooh. Hooray, there were no delays. Awesome. And that's 12:05 a.m. UK time. So you actually would have gotten it much earlier than everyone else. I think I got my copy this morning because I like to just go through and check everything, make sure that what I'm expecting is what I get delivered. Awesome. Well, we have this wonderful book launch, and the book launch right here, this slideshow is based around the cover design for my book. I edited a little bit to remove the words, although I added the title and book launch back in. But for those of you who don't know, this is my third book, Saving the Lost. Well, yeah, you can see that I am watching the YouTube in the reflection of my book. So hopefully there's nothing incriminating on screen, but it is a little mirror image of itself. Anyways, this is Saving the Lost. You got a portal here, as I show in all four of my books. And you have a little person walking there, and there are you have a person leaving the portal, and there are footsteps on the floor. And yes, it is very, very glossy. So, what is this book? Oh, and in the background, there's a fallen building. It's a little bit hard. It's a little bit hard to see all the details in here, but we have that. And then we also have the side where you can see number 3. And then we have the back where you see more just rubble and fallen apartment. Yes, this cover was designed by Meeble Art. That is the third book I've gone to them for. So thank you. Thank you. They all have very similar style. It's kind of, I guess, cartoonish realism. I don't know how to describe it. But either way, they have a really good design team. And this is the first one with a person who you can clearly see. The others have somebody falling, which is, you can obviously see them. That's falling through. And then Expanding Cracks has 2 people who are facing away from camera. So I'm impressed that they were able to design a person really well. Also, Andy, thank you for joining in. And yes, I am a fan of the cover. So what is the book about? Well, in traveling to new times and dimensions, the void has taken victims. Nicole will stop at nothing to reclaim her lost friend. Her, Tracy, Derek, and the rest will discover the past and future are more connected than anyone realized. What will they need to sacrifice to bring everyone home? So that's the back blurb. And that is what this book is all about. Also, another news, just to, uh, anyways, I got some stuff this morning, so I got some new swag. So there's not much to really see here. These are the first book and the second book, which pretty standard. These are from this side. They are the exact same as my previous bookmarks, except on the back they got these QR codes. So we have the author page up top, the YouTube channel right here, and this is where you can find the book that is shown. So this one has its own QR code falling through, and Expanding Cracks has its own third QR code right there. Now, the first two, obviously the author page and YouTube channel are the same, but the bottom one is unique to each of these, which is pretty cool. And tomorrow I'll be making the bookmark for the third book. So that'll be something that's coming out soon. Looks like we got somebody new here. So DL Tilray, thank you for joining in. And yes, this is something I learned from AwesomeCon, where the guy sitting next to me, he didn't have business cards, but he had a QR code along with a picture of his book. So it was similar to this. It was a little bit bigger. So it wasn't necessarily a bookmark. It was more of just an author card. And so it had the book on the side. It was sideways and had the book here. And then there was a QR code right here. So it was all one-sided. But I like the bookmark thing. So I just decided to do it this way, where I have the exact same thing as I did before, but I just add to it. Whew. So we are getting underway. That's pretty smart too. So you stick a QR code to your newsletter in the back of your paperbacks. I like that. I don't think I do that, but that's fine. So we have Saving the Lost. Oh, what does my hoodie say? My hoodie comes from Just Eva's no longer available bookstore, but it says Imposter Syndrome is sus. So it's a wonderful indie author swag sweatshirt, and unfortunately these are limited edition now, which is a shame because I really like the stuff that she was selling, but oh well. Now, how it started versus how it's going. I wanted to include at least one meme somewhere in here. I didn't really do it right, but it is what it is. It took me 15 years from conceptualization to saying I want to write a book to falling through is finally published. That took 15 years. Now, there was a lot of meandering along the way. I was going through college at the time. I didn't really write. I started freshman year writing quite a bit. Got about 35 pages in. My computer crashed. I lost quite a bit. And then it took me basically until after college to start sitting down consistently and writing. So, it's 15 years, but there's a big asterisk there. As opposed to this one, Saving the Lost, book 3, I started writing essentially after I finished the latest revisions of book 2. Book 2 came out in December of 2022. I took a good 2 weeks. I cleaned up a couple of things, put out a version 1.1 or whatever, however you want to call it, where I updated a few details after I published. And that brought me through towards the end of the year. I think my boss gave me the last 2 weeks of the year off. Company-wide, he gave everybody 2 weeks off, which was really fun. And looking back on it, kind of understand why. But anyways, neither here nor there. I had 2 weeks off at the end of 2022, and I spent that outlining and doing a lot of planning for book 3. So it is a little bit under 1.5 years to get this book out. Yeah. I mean, you would have definitely liked the fact that my content was lost because it was a training montage, but it was a training montage that I liked. So, and obviously any content that we lose, it really, it feels like you will never be able to write it as good again, but that scene isn't in the book anyway, in Falling Through anyways, so it doesn't really matter. And, J.M. Shelley, welcome, and thank you for joining in. Next person says they're going to buy my book. I'm saying the book launch price at $500. Lol. What? Don't get that. Yeah, sure. Also, my time at a really bad company gave me a lot of extra time to work with. I'll just say that. I was able to do my 40-hour work week in considerable less time, and that gave me some time to write. So, yeah, fun times. Oof. How many training montages are in book 3? That is an interesting question. So, it depends on what you define as a training montage. I think only one, but it serves multiple purposes. Oh, wow. Okay. Um, thank you. James Haley is standing in line at Epcot. I can only assume he's going on that Aerosmith, the Aerosmith car ride at Epcot. That's a lot of fun. Enjoy all the food. There's tons of soda from every single country, which is there. When I was a kid, I got very sick because I remember running through and drinking all the different types of sodas. But yeah, Epcot is a lot of fun. Oh, okay. I get it now. Hey, Barrett, welcome to the party. Thank you. Yeah, I don't. I know I can, if I'm putting out a video and it's pre-recorded, I can set it to be as a premiere. But for the live streams, I don't necessarily know how to make it like push out notifications that I'm going live. But yeah, thank you, and I'm excited as well. So it has taken me a magnitude less amount of time to write book 3. Book 2, I can see taking about 2 years. Tentatively, I would like to have it ready for AwesomeCon of 2026, assuming I'm going. I don't honestly know, but that is something fun to strive for. And oh boy, everybody's hitting me up. Okay. Okay, our dog is the worst. He gives me no respectins. I give him all my lovin's, all my foodins. Am I happy with the cadence? Yeah, I mean, I can obviously write more, but I'm trying to strike a balance between burning out and, getting my day job in. So it is much harder to write now that I have significantly more responsibilities at work. So back in the carefree days when I just sort of came in, clocked in and out, wrote at lunch, whatever, got more than my work done in the 40 hours I was given. It was easy to devote a lot of time to writing. And now that I have more responsibilities, it's much harder. Now, the story thus far. So, I don't know how many of you are X-Men fans, but the X-Men 97 has come out. I plan to watch it at some point, but in honor of the X-Men 97 show, which is a continuation of the show from obviously the 90s, they actually did a comic of X-Men 97, which was pretty cool. And that showed that there was enough of us who love the nostalgia of it that there is a market for a show. Anyways, every couple of years they come out with a new X-Men the animated series, and this one, because where I feel like my age group is kind of like the key that they're marketing to. They are trying to hit that nostalgia from when we were kids. Anyways, in honor of the X-Men 97 show, previously on Into the Void. Well, the character on the cover, Derek, he got superpowers. He was showing off for a friend and things got out of hand. Long story short, he created a monster. The monster scares him, so Derek shared his powers with a friend to help defend against the monster. Meanwhile, there's a lot of high school shenanigans that ensues. The first book is definitely a slow burn because I want to introduce a wide cast of characters, and I'll get into this later, but the way in which I write sets the stage for later books. Anyways, Derek misuses his abilities, and his monster confronts him. Derek is too weak to hold off the monster, and in desperation, he digs deep enough into his powers that he is able to tear a hole in space and time. And that leads to the first instance of falling through. They fall into several places, mostly the past. While in the place between time and space, known as the void, Derek collides with another version of himself. They recruit an alternate version of one of their friends from their own Earth to try and find the lost Derek. And more on this point later. In the past, they discover a shadow monster is in the void. Or rather, they discover a shadow monster in the void and it breaks through while they're in the past. During the fight that ensues, the shadow monster scratches Tracy, and more on that part later. They claw their way back to the right present and dimension with two more people, having gained three more people with abilities. Well, two more people with abilities and a third person, only discover that the battle is not over. And what happens? Well, for those of you who read it, you already know. I don't really want to give too many spoilers, but you'll start to notice kind of a pattern that goes through, especially with the second book. And what happens in the second book, again, previously on Into the Void. Due to the events of book one, everyone in Rachel, Tracy, and Derek's hometown know that they have powers. Whether or not they believe it, that is kind of a minor plot point because there's a whole fake news thing going on. However, most of the people they interact with have seen the devastation. They have witnessed powers at some point, or they've seen the after effects of. So they tend to believe that Tracy, Rachel, Derek are superheroes or have abilities and are anti-heroes or whatever, or they just need to be afraid of them. Derek wants to find the other Derek who was lost in book one. As I mentioned, we're coming back to that plot point, but he can't because there are shadow monsters in the void and he needs to be very, very careful when going through there. And he kind of is abusing the fact that he has the void to catch up on his schoolwork because of the events of book one. He missed out on a month of life. Now, Tracy starts hearing voices, which was present in book one, but definitely comes to a head in book two. And remember that scratch she received from the shadow? Maybe there's something to do with it. Unexplained things keep happening where powers are being used, yet nobody, Derek, Rachel, Tracy, they check between each other, and none of them were around. Or there's, they know somebody was in class when such and such thing happens. There may or may not be a huge battle at the Columbia Mall, which is a big noticeable point for anyone who lives in Maryland because, well, Maryland doesn't get a lot of story time in popular novels. There's a lot of Washington, D.C., which are political thrillers. There's a lot of Baltimore, which is unfortunately tending towards the crime drama a la, there's that show that everyone watches, which is eventually on my to-do list, but I'm drawing a blank on it. The Wire. That's what it is. With Luther, the guy from Luther, who is UK, but he plays a fantastic American citizen. Can't remember his name. Yeah, it took me a second, and I haven't seen The Wire. I know. Fun fact, a couple of my friends were actually extras in The Wire. Yes, thank you. Idris Elba. Yep. Also known as he was the Heimdall. There we go. He was Heimdall in the MCU. Anyways, if you can't tell, the shadows attack, and that's only half the battle. Again, if you can't tell, I like building major plot elements in earlier books that evolve into, or I like building minor elements in earlier books that evolve into major plot drivers in later books. Book one led directly into books 2 and 3, and book 3 couldn't happen due to the problems raised in book 2, namely that there are shadows in the void, so it's dangerous. Yeah, everybody loves Idris Elba. He's coming. He's going to be Knuckles in Sonic 3. I think that's who it is. I don't know. finally watched Sonic 1 and 2 this past month, so I'm way behind on everything Sonic related. It was okay. Not, it's a fun kids movie. I'll just say that much. It's coming out. The third Sonic movie is coming out. And so in order to do all the promotion stuff, they mentioned that Idris Elba is going to be a voice actor. I think he's going to be Shadow, but again, I don't really follow much of these details. So anyways, absolutely, Maryland is fantastic. From beaches to crabs crabs are delicious, and it's fun watching people who don't live in Maryland try and take apart crabs and eat them. Basically, I see a lot of good meat going to waste. Anyways, yes, I have seen the Mar movie. I thoroughly liked it. It's a lot of references. It tells a good storyline. Is both a good Nintendo movie and a good movie in general, which is something much better than, say, the first Mario Brothers movie from the 90s, which was live action, and oh boy. Yeah, so I was on vacation in the Dominican Republic, and fun fact, we met multiple people who have direct ties to New Jersey. So wherever you go, wherever you are in the world, you'll find somebody who has a relative or friend who lives in New Jersey. Just throwing it out there. All right. So if you have any favorite moments, just throw them in the chat, preferably without spoilers. But these are some of the moments that were mentioned to me this past week. I did a call out to try and see if anybody could give me some of their favorite things, and this is what we came back with. So the first one is Riortol and how she had a fun intro in book 1. So these can be favorite moments from books 1 and 2. But Riortol's intro is fun, and she seems like a paradox at first because she arrives and leaves without a sound. And if you read the words carefully, she shouldn't have been able to do that without somebody noticing her. She just kind of was in the room and nobody actually watched her walk through the one entry and exit way. But she's a trained assassin, and the only reason why nobody heard her trademark snapping sound when she, spoiler alert, teleports, is because they were distracted by what was going on. So she is definitely a fun character to write, and she is a major driving force in saving the lost. Now, also, her name has a lot of meaning to it because Riortol is 3 different things. This is the past. I made up a language for it. So you have the Tak and Tol, which are the chosen rulers. There's some religious connotation to that because there's, a great savior there's a great savior who created their ancient city, which is why it seems so paradoxical. But the male term for, this great savior chose these 2 people to lead. So the male term for, the savior's chosen is Tak, and the female term is Tol. Then we have which means 5th daughter, and Ri means assistant to or hand up. So Riortol is basically just her title that she kind of goes by because she doesn't actually have a name. She gave that up in service to her duty, which is being assistant to the 5th daughter of the chosen rulers. Riortol. Oh boy. Lots of New Jersey love in the comment section. So she's a lot of fun to write. She does have some fish out of water moments because obviously going from thousands of years in the past to the present, there's going to be some adjustments that are needed. Even so, she is one of the fundamental team members. And I would say that there are definitely 2 people who the rest of the characters wouldn't have survived without. And in the first chapter of Saving the Lost, I actually outright say, I'm the one keeping these people alive. Or sorry, a character outright states that she is one of the people that are keeping her friends alive, which is true. And Riortol is another one of those people, although she's kind of an unsung hero. Now, next up for favorite moments, we have oh boy, TikTok and Toll Talk. There's some TikTok comments on there in the chat. Anyways, next up is the locations. Sure, there are some impressive invented places like the ancient city with its impossibly high tower to the cold snap, which is pretty low key, but at the same time, it's a gelato store in the modern location where one of the friends, his parents own that gelato store and they work there. And so it's like a fun hangout place for the main characters to come together. So in the first book, there were multiple scenes that took place in the cold snap. In the second book, there are plenty. There's at least one scene that takes place in the cold snap. I think there might be two. And obviously in the third book, there is a scene in the cold snap early on. It's just a fun place to meet. But more than that, as I mentioned with the locations, it's rare for Maryland to be a location in a story. Like I already said, Washington is your political thrillers, Baltimore is your dramas, and the rest of Maryland is largely forgotten from a storytelling perspective, which is unfortunate. And I had to counteract that. I know Maryland pretty well. Obviously, I grew up there, or I grew up in Maryland very well. I grew up in Maryland, therefore I know it pretty well. And in fact, in Howard County, all roads lead to the Columbia Mall. So naturally, I had a major fight scene take place at the Columbia Mall. Also, another favorite moment is how consequences build off of each other. So I make the decisions the character, I make the choice, I give weight to the choices the characters make. That's probably the best way of saying that. Sorry. I write a lot better than I speak. I'll say that much. Where, if I can take the time to think about what I'm trying to say before I actually say it, as I do in my books, it sounds coherent. Whereas right now, there's a little bit of fumbling going on. Also, yes, Richard, tuna mac and cheese was not included. So tuna mac and cheese was a food item in book 1. There was book 2 that took place during Thanksgiving. So I did a nice little description of some sweet potato casserole with marshmallows on top, which is a really good dessert. And in this book, oh yeah, there is definitely an eating scene, but it's kind of, there's 2 major eating scenes, but it's kind of ordered in food. So you got your basic pizzas and your bagels. Anyways, I really want to address how the consequences have weight. So somebody mentioned that that's one of their favorite things. And again, due to the events of book 1, the main characters can't return to their previous lives. Everyone knows they have abilities. And in this, in the second book, there are definitely consequences for it. But in the third book, particularly, that leads to, let's say, outright fear or aggression and all these other things that are going on. Whereas in book 2 is a little bit more hero worship. By the time book 3 comes around, that, let's call it, the honeymoon phase is over, and people aren't just, oh wow, you have superpowers. It's, oh wow, you can do incredibly devastating things. So there are no alter egos, there are no secret identities. They talked about it at first, but then obviously because of the events of book 1 and later book 2, there wasn't enough time to do a quick swap and do a Clark Kent Superman switch. So no costumes, no one has alter egos, everyone saw them use their abilities. And unfortunately, that has consequences. Just like in Saving the Lost, one of the main plot point, One of the main plot points is due to the events of book one, where a Derek, where Derek collided with an alternate version of himself, and the other Derek got thrown off somewhere else, but he never came home, so they got to figure out what happened to him. There's also, as I mentioned with the way I write, there's the obvious issue, but then there's also something going on in the undercurrent, which may or may not be a consequence of past choices. So you'll just have to read to find out what I mean. And let's move on to predictions. So, if you have any predictions for what you think will happen in book three, well, let me know in the comments. Meanwhile, I'm going to start checking out the contents. Checking out the comments. I don't always drive slowly. In fact, yeah, I feel like I mentioned that here. We were driving back from Adriana's family, and there was dangerous conditions on the road where the snow was starting to pile up. And in theory, I should have stopped at my parents' house and we would just spent the night there. But I kept going and we got home perfectly safe. Conditions definitely were getting worse. And luckily, there weren't as many people on the roads, although the 18-wheelers were still flying by. But I was going about 45 on 495 and, or 95, 495, 95, whatever. Major highway. And Adriana was telling me that I needed to slow down. So I drive at a safe rate, but sometimes I drive too fast, sometimes I drive too slow. Depends on the conditions. No, Richard, this isn't Futurama. There is no Derek is his own grandfather. Well, I will give you that. I do try to drive too slowly on the turnpike because the speed limit is 65 or 75, and you need to be going 90. Otherwise, you are getting, well, honked at. Cool. Well, I don't think there's any predictions here. I think a lot of my beta readers are in the comments, so it would be an unfair advantage. So I'll just move right along. These are some secrets. Oh, yeah. And also feel free to just post in the comments what your prediction, if you have any predictions for book three, assuming you haven't read it yet. Now, a couple of secrets. Number one, there's a lot of mysteries that will be revealed. Now, specifically, this is book one mysteries. So things that I buried in book one as hints are now going to be fully revealed. Because obviously every good book has mysteries and makes you ask questions, but this one specifically has plot points that were left up in book one that are now being circled back to. So Saving the Lost will answer at least one major book one beta reader question and follow up to that because a couple of beta readers asked me these questions, or the functionally the same question worded differently. Anyways, one lucky reader was able to guess the solution, which is in book three. And rather than rewrite it, pulling a Lost, I stuck to my intentions. And no, Richard, you can certainly reread book one. I won't stop you, but you don't need to do it because a lot of the details that took place previously, I do reiterate or highlight or generalize in book three. So you could technically read book three out of the blue. I mean, obviously, it's better having read books one and two, but if you generally remember books one and two, the major events, you should be fine. And yeah, you don't necessarily need to go back and reread books one and two to enjoy book three. Also, number two, I cut and pasted a book one scene directly into book three. Now, early on in book three, there's a scuba scene, which was originally intended to be in Falling Through book 1. This was a training montage that got removed from book 1, and I added it into book 3, which is where it fits. But it's not, it is functionally a training montage, sure, but it also is there for another purpose because it gives guidance for the characters and leads to a major decision in the story within the next, let's say, 5 chapters. So it's an early on event, which was a scuba scene, which was wonderfully fun to write because it took a lot of my own experiences with scuba diving, where I've been by a reef and I've been sort of swimming by, and I've just gone into some deep water, relatively deep. I think it's like 100. I feel like I've gone down to about 120 feet at most, and how the entire world changes at those depths and the considerations you need to make. Max dive was 105 feet. Okay, cool. So 105, maybe. I think I might have gone down to 110 because I'll trust my wife on that 105. There was a shipwreck that we went to, which was at 110. Yeah, it was it met with the sand at 110, and I feel like I went all the way down to the bottom, and whatever. There's some gray area there. We'll say my max is 105 feet. And if anybody gets a chance, I strongly encourage you to learn to scuba dive because it is a lot of fun. I've actually scuba dived on 4 different continents, primarily in the Caribbean Sea, which gets me North America, South America. But I've also done some Mediterranean diving and Japan, which is, well, all the diving experiences have been a lot of fun. So I strongly encourage you all to take it up as a hobby. It's a lot of good times and gives you a lot of, well, first of all, something fun to do while on vacation. And while we were actually traveling around specifically to places like Roatan for the sole purpose of finding fun diving sites. And Roatan is absolutely beautiful. No, it's 4 continents because, again, we dove in the Mediterranean, so that includes Europe because we were diving in. No, we. Sorry, I'm discussing with. I might need to see a map. I may not have been in South America because. I could have no, because we were in Ecuador. Isn't Roatan technically Ecuador? Honduras is Central America. Okay, fair enough. All right, well then I've only been diving in 3 continents. Oh well. I could have sworn that Roatan was off the coast of whatever. Honduras. Okay, so Roatan is a part of Honduras, which is Central America, which is technically North America. So I've never dived in South America. I'm really confused because we've done North America, Europe, Asia, and I don't know what the 4th would be. Anyways, so the 3rd thing is I had a productive weekend because I've been on vacation this week, and I cleaned up 120 gallons of trash. On Thursday, I went southwest. Yesterday, I went kind of northeast, and I filled up 4 full trash bags of trash. There was a lot of it. I know it's not really a secret about this book, but I just wanted to shout that out because, oh boy. Central America is part of North America as far as continents go. Because we have North America, South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, Antarctica, and what am I forgetting? Australia. Yeah, 7 continents. Central America is part of North America. Anyways, yeah. So I'm really proud of all that cleanup that I did. It was pretty heavy. And I also have my 5-gallon bucket, which, whenever I filled up, I would either dump into a trash bag or a nearby trash bin or a dumpster that, says no dumping. But we're going to gloss over that one really quickly. And yeah, cool. So, anyways, let's move on to some interactive things and definitely not talk about possibly illegal activities. Oh, absolutely. Trash does count as lifting. And unfortunately, I went for a run this morning and saw that somebody had left 2 giant trash bags along the course. Um, so on Monday's run, if they're still there, I'll probably just pick them up because obviously the person who they belong to, well, yeah, it's a shame. But yeah, they're illegal activities isn't dumping. So that is actually a good ethical question. If I'm picking up trash in a place that says no dumping and then I dump it into a public dumpster that also says no dumping, is it illegal? I don't know. Probably yes, but at the same time, I mean, I also clean up after the people in that neighborhood anyways, so yeah, I don't necessarily care too much. It's also really annoying when I see somebody sitting there eating food, waiting for the bus, and I see them like with trash in their hand and know that on the way back I'm going to clean up after them because they can't clean up after themselves. Oof. Anyways, question number 1. What would you do if everyone knew you had superpowers? So it could be something fun like telekinesis, and everyone asks you to just, fly them up in the air, or it could be laser vision where somebody asks you to give them LASIK because that's definitely a healthy thing to do. Or it could be, something fun, teleportation. So they might ask you to give them a ride to work when they don't feel like going in the commute. So give you all just a few minutes to think about that one. Oh boy. DL Tillery is pleading the fifth on this one because this is the start of her origin story. Oh. Yeah, but Rufus, because we always end up at the beach, and Rufus would be absolutely terrible at that. Because Rufus hates the beach. And the beach combines everything that he hates. It is hot weather, it is hanging out in sand, it is being close to water. Really, the only thing that he likes about the beach is rolling around in dead fish. All right, I'm taking this time while you all think about your answers to put your names into a wheel so that we can do some um, prizes shortly. So that's something to think about. And next up, we have oh boy, you have the power of invisibility, and what would you do with it? Because I can only think of terrible things. Hide from the government. Good luck with that, Richard. Oh, so we would go on vacation and just leave our dog at our house while teleporting back and forth. Yes. Nice. Let's see. Next up, what is the worst superpower to have? Now, bear in mind, there's a lot of different ways to answer this question. So, for example, you had X-ray vision, but you can only see your family naked. Or you can only use it to see your family naked. Or you're able to fly, but every time you need to say propel yourself off the ground by expelling gas. So, what are some of your twists on superpowers that would turn them into the worst powers to have? I am all out fun twists in writing. Give you all just a few more minutes to figure that one out, to think about what the worst powers would be to have. Spoiler alert, there might be some that will show up. If your idea is good enough, I might bake it into a future novel, because there are about to be a whole bunch of people with superpowers that are running around. Oh, hey, Just Eva, thank you for joining in. I'm actually repping some of your gear, which is a lot of fun. Oh, Medusa was a power fun. Let's see, Richard, that one from the Skittles advert where everything you touch literally turns into Skittles. So it's like the golden touch, but for food. Yeah, my knowledge of Parks and Rec is very piecewise, so I don't actually know that one. Ooh, mind reading is out of your control. Yeah, yeah. I think every X-Men movie tries to show the negatives of Jean Grey and Professor X, where they lose all control of their mind reading abilities and just start hearing all these pervy conversations inside somebody's head. I think the boys did that as well too. Cool, cool, cool. Now, number 3. Well, I kind of gave the answer to this one, and this is actually a holdover from the last book launch I did, but it still is relevant in book 3, so I wanted to bring it back up. Where or when was the shadow first encountered in book 1? A, the past, B, the present, C, the future, or D, none of the above? That's skipping ahead. But let's see. B, I think. Okay. So JC Carpenter thinks it's B. Oh no. No, that's perfectly fine. Oh wow, thank you for still pre-ordering Saving the Lost. So if you do read book 3, let me know, because I tried to write it in a way that you could pick it up without having read books 1 and 2, but obviously you would get more out of it if you have read books 1 and 2, with the character relations and all the missing plot elements and buildup of certain suspenseful items. So also, it's not, well, I mean, it is a trilogy in that there are 3 books, but it's not the complete story. I plan on writing 6 books for the series. Oh, you're quite cheeky, Richard. Not always true. Especially, in fact, with multiple choice answers, B is actually, statistically speaking, the most commonly right answer, even when there is a D, none of the above, or all of the above. Question 3, yes. All right. But again, that's multiple choice in the United States for test taking. So I don't know how well that translates to the UK. So I think C is the most common when there's 5 answers. When there's only 4, it is B. At least that's how it was when I was going through school. Oh boy. Yeah. Let's just say that there was a test I took in college, which I was taking the class as pass fail, and I only need to get a 2.5% on the final in order to pass, which means that there were 10 questions that were true and false, and I think I needed to get like 3 of them right to pass the class. So I answered all those as best I could. And then there was a multiple choice section, which I kind of, I went through it honestly, but any question I didn't feel like thinking about, I just put down B for. And then there was a fill in the blank, which I just outright skipped. And there was an essay thing, which I outright skipped. And I handed the test in 5 minutes and walked by my friend. And oh boy, my friend was taking that class. It was required for his major. And he was really upset at me doing that. I think he threw a few fun slurs at me as I walked by his table and handed him my test and just walked out. Yeah. Yeah, the correct answer is actually D for this one. So, Richard, you are right. They were going in the void. I think the first time they were going in the void, they specifically Tracy encounters the shadow. Everyone else is kind of oblivious to the danger. So she forces Derek to leave the void, which is the space between places. And that's how they end up stranded in the past. And then the shadow attacks as they try and seal the breach. And that's when Tracy gets scratched. And then when they try and leave the past, the shadow monster also attacks them. Just some fun details there. So, yes, congratulations, Richard. You were right. Okay, book 4. There is a fight scene which I described that takes place at the Columbia Mall. Which of these is not at the Columbia Mall? Or according to as described in Expanding Cracks, which is the book that this takes place in. So is it A, carousel, B, a movie theater, C, a food court, D, a Dave and Buster's, E, massage chairs, or F, kiosks? Let's see, we have an answer. Just Eva thinks that it's D. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember if Just Eva, if you're one of the Baltimore people, or if you so you've been to the Columbia Mall, or if you're just guessing. Don't honestly remember. The fun slurs from my friend as I handed in the test that he spent the next hour struggling through. There were definitely a lot of F-bombs in there. All right, Richard, you say the answer is E, massage chairs. So actually, it's not the Fairfax Mall. It might be the Lancaster Mall. Either way, they have a Dave and Buster's. The movie theater that I go to see. One of my friends lived in Springfield, so we go to the movie theater by him, which is in a mall, and they have a Dave and Buster's. So there are Dave and Buster's in malls, or at least there's one in my local mall. Let's see. So we have James Shelley said, "Ooh, James Shelley is off the line at Epcot, and he is joined back in." And Silly Mikey, thank you for joining in, Mike. Always a pleasure to have you here, Uncle Mike. That is family right there. So, what is Dave and Buster's? Oh boy. Think about like an adult arcade where you have, your normal arcade systems. It's like it's Chuck E. Cheese for adults, where you have arcades, you have games you can win prizes, and you have a restaurant that serves booze. What? I'm trying to remember. Isn't there a Dave and Buster's in Baltimore Inner Harbor? Hmm. I feel like one of my friends had a party in Baltimore, and I was definitely in a Dave and Buster's. Either way, yeah, well, they're so much more fun than Chuck E. Cheese because the food is better, and well, I guess you can get beer in Chuck E. Cheese, but it's more socially acceptable to be drunk at Dave and Buster's than it is to be drunk at Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. Uh... Oh, cool. So I was right. I do know Baltimore things. There was a Dave and Buster's in Baltimore, or at least there used to be. Cool. Yes. If you ever play Five Nights at Freddy's, I believe that is loosely based off of Chuck E. Cheese, where you have those animatronics that come to life and just kill people. So just Evie or St. Louis. Sorry. Way off. Oh yeah. So I do have real memories of going to a Dave and Buster's in the Baltimore Harbor. Awesome. Well. Gotcha. Yeah, I got a couple of friends. One of my best friend lived in Canton for a while, and now he's over in Fed Hill by the Domino Sugar Factory. So I go up to that part of Baltimore a lot. Less so than I used to, but and well, one of my friends was moving away, so he's now out in the Midwest. And before he left, we had a big, huge party at Dave and Buster's. All right. Anyways, the correct answer is yes, Dave and Buster's is not there. So I mentioned the carousel in the Columbia Mall. I mentioned the movie theater because that's what they're going to. It's a date night that gets interrupted by said fight. There's the food court, which, oh boy, my friends and I are terrible. So you have the free samples that they hand out. And so my friend and I would just like wander past them and then wander back and then wander back and then wander back. And then they would yell at you if you go back 3 times because, you know, you're high school kids with too much free time and there's nothing else to really do in Columbia except hang out the mall. So, oh boy. Yeah, and they do sit in the massage chairs, and there are kiosks that become collateral damage during the fight scene. I think Tracy gets kind of like an exoskeleton armor. She tries to jump and just crashes right on a kiosk. Which brings us to... Uh-oh, did I lose it? Oh, that's when we painted. I lost it. Uh-oh. Shoot. Well, I had everybody's name set up. Okay. It says I can see it. I don't know where that is at the moment. I do have too many screens at the same time, sure, but at the same time, I can't interact with it. It says it sees it. I don't. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Cool. I can see now. Okay, so somebody did join in. Oh, cool. R.A. Morley. Perfect. So let me add in a few more names. So we got Silly Icky and R.A. Morley. Thank you for joining in. I think I have everybody's names, and this will be the first prize. If you're in the continental United States, I will mail you a Saving the Lost along with some bookmarks because that's the prize. And if you're not in the continental United States, I may still be able to mail you a copy of Saving the Lost. It'll probably be about $80, so I may or may not do that. But instead, I can definitely try and mail you out some bookmarks and possibly magnets. I think the last time I tried to do that, I had to get the magnets declared at customs because they couldn't bend. So I might just be sending out bookmarks and stickers if you are not in the continental United States. I'm sorry. Now that being said, we have everybody's names who I think I saw, and so let's do the first spin. Mikey, congratulations! You won a signed copy of Samuel Lost, and I'm going to get you some bookmarks. So let me make a note of all the winners. And before we get too far, I'm going to remove you so that way you don't win in the next drawing. Cool. Huzzah! All right. So now we've done that. It is time for Two Truths and a Lie. In the last one, I focused on the characters that are the most relevant. But here, well, not but. So I'm starting off with Rear Toll. And so shout out in the channel which of these things you think is a lie. What's a Swiftie? Oh boy. Swiftie is fans of Taylor Swift. And yes, I realize that we are crossing over fake stories with real life people, genres, artists, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. Oops. So Rear Toll knows over 1,000 ways to kill someone with her bare hands. She's a Swiftie and she despises video games. Yes. Swifties are big fans of Taylor Swift. So I will let you know that I don't explicitly say it in the text whether or not she, or specifically what music Rear Toll likes listening to. My wife has definitely bounced in with her thoughts. Oh no. I've never killed anyone. So there's that. Ooh. So you think number 2 is the lie. Interesting. That's bad, Richard. I think so. Yeah, I'm just after Ben 10. So Ben 10 came out. I was a little bit too old to really enjoy it, but I am aware of it. Yeah, I do ruin a lot of my wife's favorite movies and shows. Okay. So we were thinking that number 2 and number 3 are the lies. Interesting. Well, in all honesty, the lie is number 1. So Beardhole would like modern music, obviously, so she would be a fan of Taylor Swift. She despises video games because it's something fake that she values as a real life skill, which is, hunting, fighting, everything along those lines. If you can just simply press a button to, punch or kick or do some power or fight or slash or whatever, she feels like the character I created would feel like video games are kind of a cheat. That being said, I love video games, but the character I created would not like them. And that means that we are told doesn't actually know of over 1,000 ways to kill someone with her bare hands. She is definitely deadly, but if she had to I mean, first of all, there's only so many ways you can kill someone with your bare hands. And yes, I know there are a lot of like really creative ways of, doing this, that, and the other, or hitting them in a specific way, or, gouging out their eyes, or doing something along those lines. But a lot of those boil down to the same thing done more or less slightly differently. So she doesn't actually know over 1,000 ways to kill with her bare hands. Oh yeah. Fun fact, Jamie, I still play AoE 2. That's why Richard brings it up, because he knows how much I play it. And in fact, once we're done here, I'll probably play a few games of Age of Empires. That's what AoE 2 is, Age of Empires. It's a strategy game. She's not a cozy gamer. She just, like I mentioned, she despises video games, so that's true. And yes, while I agree with you, DL, I completely agree that video games are fantastic. I do still believe that somebody from thousands of years ago who was trained to be a fighter and had to struggle, for basic necessities, even in a contrived environment. Yeah, I don't think she would like video games, even like Stardew Valley or something where you sit around farming. Next up is Nicole. So Nicole, and this is the other Nicole. So there's two Nicoles in the story. One of them was a lifelong friend of the main characters, but she moved away, and then they travel to an alternate dimension. They pick up this other Nicole, and that's Nicole that's being referenced here, where she has then joined them since book 1. And actually, Nicole is, spoiler, the person on the cover. So as Nicole, which of these is a truth, and which of these is the lie out of these truths? So number 1, my best mile time is a 6:30, which is really good for a high school girl. I believe the best times are in the low 4s, but I am out of high school track math, so it's well better than average. A 6:30 is not remarkable, but it is, no. Either way, it's not competitive in high school, but it is definitely better than average. Number 2, until this year, I've never used a weapon as a weapon. Cooking knives don't count. And number 3, I love climbing tall buildings to take in the view. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining in, Jam. Obviously, if you win, I'll let you know. Your name will still be on the wheel, so if you win anything, I'll let you know. I think there's only going to be one more drawing. Yeah, but the person you've attacked is yourself. Sorry, my wife was chopping not lettuce, cabbages. She was chopping cabbages and she cut her finger. So need a few stitches there. Richard, you can't guess both of them. You have to pick one. Yeah, my wife jokes about that where, we went to the hospital, she got stitches, then she came back and finished making the meal. It was really good. So she was making kimchi for hot dogs, which came out really well. Cool. So I'll give you all another minute or so to come up with which one of these is the lie for Nicole. Yeah. That was back when we were doing Blue Apron, which is pretty good. Came out really good. Obviously, there was no blood in it because she cut herself and then immediately stopped making food. All right. Yeah. So this one, I don't mention her speed in the book. I don't explicitly say whether or not she's fast or slow. Whether or not she's fast or slow. Until this year, she never used a weapon as a weapon. Again, that wouldn't necessarily be in the book. But those first two things are true. So the third thing is the lie. Nicole is one of there are three characters who are afraid of heights. Derek is very afraid of heights. Nicole is arguably worse. And then Riortol is uncomfortable at heights because, again, she's from the past and not used to being very high off the ground. So Nicole is one of the people who are afraid of heights. And yeah. The lie is that she loves climbing tall buildings to take in the view. Cool. So with that out of the way, we are back to doing prize number 2. And this is the second and final prize. After this, I'm going to start closing down. So I think I have everybody's names. If I didn't get you, I am very sorry. But let's give it another spin. And wow, J.M. Chaley. So he stepped off to have more fun at Disney World, and he is our second winner for the day. And you know what? Because I'm feeling good, we'll give a third winner. I do kind of feel bad that the people who have won are one, my beta reader, and two, my uncle. So we'll give one more person a chance to win. Because I don't want to give the full impression of nepotism. So the third and final spin, we've got who's the big third winner? JC Carpenter. Congratulations. I will be sending you bookmarks and a book. Oh, yeah, this book. So let me fix that and make a note right here. JC. Cool. Yeah, so I can send you all a prize. If you're comfortable, give me your address. I can mail you a signed book, bookmarks, whatever. If not, we can do ebooks or just gift card or whatever. And yes, that is you. Congratulations, you won. So thank you for joining in. Yeah, apparently only people with J names can win. All right. Well, we have 3 winners and we've gone through everything that I want to talk about with book 3. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Saving the Lost is out now. It is out in paperback with the glossy cover. It is out in ebook. You can pick it up in Amazon. Unfortunately, right now it's only in Amazon because I really like doing things with KDP, and I haven't had really much success with Draft to Digital or Barnes and Nobles thus far. But that being said, I have a few copies if you want to just directly reach out to me and you don't feel like going through Amazon. But let me get this. So once you have read the book, whether you liked it, whether you hated it, please, please let me know what you thought about it by reviewing it. And you can do that at this link. Cool. So again, once you read it, let me know what you thought of it. And please, please be honest. As much as I would love to hear 5 stars, my book is perfectly flawless and it's the best thing you've ever read. That's not realistic. So yeah, if you feel like picking up my book and reading it, please do me a favor and review it once you're done. That'll help other people potentially find it or know to avoid it. And if they know to avoid it, then that gives me some chances to course correct in future books. Thank you, Richard, but I know for a fact that it's not. I appreciate you pandering, but it is. I will be the first to say that my book is not the best thing I've ever read. Yeah. So here is the review link, but let's get back into focus right here. So this is the book that brought us here today. And you are on Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Thank you, everyone, for being here. The 3 winners, I will reach out to you and try and figure out what to send you, where to send it, how to send it, whatever. I got physical books. I got bookmarks that are now to my left. And, well, chat has definitely evolved into butts. So with that, I want to thank all of you for being here. If you picked up my book already, extra special thank yous to all of you. And I will see you not on Monday, but I will be back a week from Monday because this is an early episode. So it would have normally been on the 1st, which actually, now that I think about it, would have been a really great day to publish my book on April Fool's Day. But not going to be having a video on Monday because that's what this video was. And so instead, I will see you all on the 8th, where I talk about what happens next. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. And thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited for my book to be out there. I've just gushed on it for an hour, and I am thoroughly glad that you all were able to experience it with me, whether or not you pick up my book. It was just fun having you all in the chats, and I need to clean up first. But yes, once I clean up, once I get something to drink, because I'm very thirsty now, and once I undo the mess that is my basement when I'm filming in this configuration, I will play Age of Empires. So, no, it's not scotch. It's going to be water. I'm very, very lame. Although I might actually be going out to full disclosure, one of my friends, well, loose friend, a guy who I know from college, his parents actually have a gelato store that opened up nearby. So I might go up for gelatos after this. It's not the cold snap, but there may or not have been an influence for the cold snap in real life. Then the fact that my friends and I used to hang out at Baskin Robbins because it was right off the highway and kind of a central location to all of us. And it was open 24/7. So we could, when we were bored of being at people's houses, we would just drive out there at like 11 at night and hang out there for an hour or two. People there really hated my friends and I in high school. Anyways. Yeah, sure. I'll plug it. Casa Rosada. It is delicious. It's in Alexandria. There was unfortunately a car that hit their restaurant. So they are just starting to get back into it, which is really weird because it's not on the main road. And like the physics of how a car lost control in that alleyway, like it's far enough away from the turning that from the main road where if a car turned off and then lost control, it would have been swerving for a good 100 yards and probably bouncing off of cars, parked cars, to then hit the store. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. I will see you all later. I'm going to clean up my apartment, my house. I'm going to probably get gelatos, and I'm going to play some AoE. So I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday.